I'm George Polyzos, presenting our work on securing the Internet of Agents. Considering the evolution of AI agents, we see that from LLM assistants we moved to single-agent systems, multi-agent systems, and now the Internet of Agents. What is important for an agent is that in addition to access to a large language model, it has its own memory, various tools, including specific data that is not available perhaps to the LLM, and it can access the environment locally and actuate or get sensing from the environment. In the Internet of Agents, agents discover and collaborate with other agents beyond application or organization boundaries through the Internet of Agents infrastructure. Multiple domains belonging to perhaps different entities, perhaps at different regulatory boundaries, collaborate, interact in order to achieve some specific goals. Why do we care about an Internet of Agents? For various reasons. Some are shown here. Mainly data locality. In some instances, data cannot move for regulatory reasons, or it's not practical for them to move, and therefore we want agents to operate on them locally. Or there are constraints on authority based on domain or location areas. Then there can be proprietary tools only available in certain domains or locales, or specific expertise related to the tools. And then placement of agents might matter depending on latency for actuation, for example, or the cost of computation or energy and power. Therefore, the Internet of Agents is not just a bigger multi-agent system. In typical closed multi-agent systems that have been considered basically up to now, the agents or the agent types are known and limited. There is typically one operator in one domain with a given policy that is shared by all agents, and there is an internal workflow in order to achieve a specific goal. And accountability is central. It's for the whole domain. In the case of the Internet of Agents, the agents are owned or are part of different domains. Therefore, we need to find them, to discover them, and in principle, they might be unfamiliar to us, and therefore they need to have descriptions. They belong to multiple entities under different regulatory regimes. There are really different policies, regulation, and laws that apply to them based on domains or geographic location. We need to discover and do workflows based on the discover agents and the agents available or selected for the specific task that and the specific workflow that we decide. And accountability is distributed to the various agents or the domains of sets of agents that they belong to. For the Internet of Agents, infrastructure is emerging, but it is still very fragmented. It's very early on. So if we consider a reference life cycle of the Internet of Agents, we have tasks that need to discover and discover agents. The discovered agents or the decided selected agents need to be resolved to actual computers, domains. There needs to be a verification level of trust, provenance of the specific agents. There needs to be a connection or, getting access to the specific agents through agent-to-agent protocol, typically. And then in some instances where the agents typically delegate some subtasks to other agents, there needs to be a scoped delegation. That is, we need to allow agents to delegate and specify the conditions under which this is desirable or possible. When an agent discovers another agent, there are core security questions. First of all, how to decide if the collaborator, the potential collaborator, is trustworthy and appropriate. Then, how to collaborate under adversarial conditions, because there might not be an agent under non-adversarial conditions, and still collaboration might be possible. And overall, how to secure the Internet of Agents infrastructure, that is, all the infrastructure that facilitates selecting and collaborating with agents. First step is trustworthy discovery. So in order to discover appropriate agents, we need to have a task, figure out what it needs to do, what capabilities various agents have to satisfy the task, and therefore we discover candidate agents. And among the candidates, we need to have a decision based on agent identity, capabilities, reputation, provenance, and authorization. Based on this, there is a decision made and there is a selection of an agent to collaborate with or to assign a task. During the collaboration, there needs to be accountability. There are many possibilities for failures or adversarial conditions. And therefore, we need to know the agents, who contributed, how much, who delegated to whom, who verified, who evaluated the level of task achievement, and in the end, what is the quality of the work performed. And the third pillar of the overall system is the infrastructure that essentially realizes the ecosystem. That is, registries, directories, marketplaces, index and name resolution, metadata, communication and achieving the specific routing required, the tools in order to allow delegation and to make it possible, and the reputation and audit systems. So there are many attacks or many problems that can arise over the infrastructure for supporting the Internet of Agents ecosystem. So there can be fake agents, poisoning of information, manipulation of ranking and reputation, endpoint hijacking, late revocation or stale revocation, spoofed capabilities, tampered claims, fake issuers of identities and credentials, spoofing, replay attacks, traffic diversion, bait and switch tactics, malicious tools over permissioned access or capabilities, scope inflation, and in the end, Sybil attacks, collusion among agents, and leading to incomplete or total failure of accountability. To address all these problems, we have developed a verifiable self-governance framework that depends mainly on two key technologies: verifiable reputation ledgers and expertise-driven routing. So all this setting allows formalizing trust as a dynamic verifiable metric and enables adaptive trust-aware orchestration, that is, selection of appropriate agents to perform tasks and subtasks, and finding the appropriate routing, that is, the order of performance of the tasks in order to achieve the required overall goal. So key aspects here is that this is dynamic, and as the system develops, it gets updated, the metrics get updated, and the system learns. And there is verification of metrics and statements. So things are put in a ledger that is immutable, and therefore things cannot be modified later, in particular by attackers. So it replaces static implicit trust and provides a directory that has information about agents and their performance and their level of trust that is effectiveness aware, that is based on the various metrics of their performance. And this is how agents select and are selected based on these proven immutable metrics. Based on the potential candidate agents, then there is expertise-driven routing that learns to select the most appropriate agents for the specific task. Okay, so there is a learned routing policy that replaces rigid workflows. And this is a balance between immediate task relevance, that is, who seems to be the most appropriate agent to achieve the task, versus their long-term proven performance and reliability. Of course, this is a high-level overview of our approach. We'll be happy to further discuss this with you over email if you would like, or meeting you. Thank you very much for your attention, And this was for securing the Internet of Agents work that is done with my PhD students Shuwen and Juan Wibowo.